Welcome to the Aligned Ambition podcast. I'm your host, Pooja Venkatraman. I'm a double Harvard grad, former BCG consultant, and now an executive coach for high achievers. On this podcast, we are going to tackle the 4 key things that you need to figure out in order to live a life of aligned ambition. Those 4 things are stress, productivity, performance, and purpose. We are going to make sure that you're driving your car in the direction that you actually want to go. That is the purpose part. We're also going to make sure that your progress along the road is consistent and effective. That's the productivity and performance part. And we're going to make sure that the fuel you're pouring into your tank isn't so noxious that it's filling your car with fumes and making the whole ride miserable. That is the stress part. Because if you can tackle those 4 things, stress, productivity, performance, and purpose, you can build the life and the career that you actually want. Not the life you think you're supposed to have, not the life that burns you out or doesn't fit quite right, but the life you actually want. One that fulfills your biggest ambitions and unleashes your fullest potential without sacrificing your sanity, your relationships, your authenticity, or your paycheck. A life that feels as good on the inside as it looks on the outside. That's what aligned ambition is all about. Let's get started. Hey guys, I am so excited for this week's podcast episode. To build a burnout-free career, stop trying to do a good job. Now, I can feel you having an allergic reaction to me saying that. So let me very quickly reassure you what I don't mean when I say stop trying to do a good job. What I don't mean is lower your standards, slack off, just relax, coast. You've already done enough. You've already accomplished so much. Stop working so hard. Phone it in. It's all good. That is not what I mean when I say stop trying to do a good job. I'm going to tell you a little side story to show you what I mean. So when I worked at BCG, I used to be in the San Francisco office. This was a million years ago now, pre-COVID. And at the time, we had a therapist that would sit in an office on Fridays. She was like in a physical office in the San Francisco office. And if you wanted to see her, this was like so analog. I'm not sure why it wasn't more digital at the time, especially because we were in the Bay Area. But if you wanted to see her, there was like a paper sign-up sheet and you would put your name down on the sign-up sheet and be like, oh, I'd like to see the therapist at 2 p.m. Everyone's always stressed out, obviously, BCG. So, her little sign-up sheet would get filled up. And so at one point, I was like, I'm sufficiently stressed. Let me go see this drop-in therapist. And I wrote my little name down and I talked to her and I told her, here's what I'm stressed about and I'm behind and like there's this and there's that and like, how should I handle this? And her advice for me was exactly this. It was like, well, you've already accomplished so much. And she walked me through all the things that I've already done. And she was like, you're doing great. I really think you should just relax. Just relax. You've already done enough. Stop trying so hard. You're doing amazing. And let me tell you, I never saw that woman again. I was like, oh, you don't get it. This is not helpful to me. And I tell you that story just to let you know, right? I get it. I get it when you have that allergic reaction to someone telling you, you've done enough. Relax, stop trying so hard. And I want to assure you that this is not what I'm about to tell you to do today. The people I now work with, I obviously don't work with that therapist. My coaches, my advisors, the books I read, the people I follow are people who have the highest standards and the biggest ambitions and really care about doing things really freaking well. I am pro excellence, pro ambition, pro doing things as well as you possibly can. It's just that I and my coaches and my mentors and the people I follow are equally uncompromising in being fulfilled and aligned and it really feeling like me and being authentic the whole time I get there versus feeling like something I have to force myself to do. So what I actually mean when I say stop trying to do a good job is this. I want you to ask yourself, what problem are you solving? I'm going to give you 2 options. Are you solving the problem of, am I good enough? Am I succeeding? Am I failing? Am I doing a good job? Am I screwing this up? Do I have it in me? Can I make it? Are they impressed? What's my status in the room? Am I falling behind? All of those are flavors of solving the am I good enough problem. Don't want you to solve that problem anymore. I instead want you to solve the customer problem, your boss's problem, your team's problem, the project's problem. I want you to solve someone else's problem. So what I mean when I say to build a burnout-free career, stop trying to do a good job. I mean, stop solving the am I good enough problem and all the variations and flavors of that problem, and instead shift your focus to solving someone else's problem or the project's problem. Let me give you some examples to really bring this to life. Let's say you run a business, you're an entrepreneur, or you're looking for an entrepreneurial idea, right? And you serve customers. Solving the am I good enough problem sounds like this. You're asking yourself, how do I make this as big as possible? How do I prove myself to others? How do I choose the right space to be in so I don't look stupid? How do I get the top tier VCs to invest? How can I be a unicorn? You're basically thinking about, how can I prove that I'm good enough? How can I prove that I'm going to succeed? How do I protect my ego through this process? That's you solving the am I good enough problem as you're trying to build your business. Versus the opposite of that would be you really asking yourself the question, what's the customer's problem? Why has it not already been solved? What are the gaps with all the other solutions? How do I build a solution that is better? How do I solve it better and better? Why is the customer's problem still not solved? What is really hurting them? What's the problem under the problem? How do I serve them better and better, right? That's what it looks like when you're focused on solving the customer's problem instead of focused on solving your own am I good enough problem in the context of building a business. I'll say as a side note, I actually have to do this all the time for myself as I'm building my own business. Not so much because I'm like, I really need to prove my ego and like build the biggest or most successful business possible. It shows up in a little bit of a different flavor for me, which I'm going to share with you in case it shows up for you in this flavor too. For me, my flavor is when I get advice from marketing experts, sales experts, even like the coaches and mentors that I hire, my brain really wants to switch into student mode and like prove to my advisor, prove to my mentor that I'm doing a good job for what they told me to do, right? And so it's almost like, okay, if I'm getting advice about how to post on LinkedIn, my brain starts to be like, okay, well, now I need to make sure I'm posting in a way where whoever gave me that advice would like give me an A on how well I followed their advice, right? And that is, again, another version of solving the am I good enough problem. So I've taken my eye off the ball. My coaches, my mentors, my advisors, they don't buy from me, nor should they. I'm serving a customer, remember? And the whole purpose of even bringing in an advisor is only to help me better serve the customer. So if I get distracted by the problem of, would my advisor, would my mentor, would my coach, would my teacher be happy with how I'm implementing their advice? Would they think I'm doing a good job? Would they give me an A on the homework? Right? That's me actually solving the am I good enough problem. Versus, I'm not saying I don't take in advice. Of course I do. It's really important. I don't have all the answers. And there's people with tons of experience and really, really helpful perspectives that I absolutely want to listen to, right? But how I take that in and without getting distracted by trying to be a good student, right? And solving the am I good enough problem is I have to keep my focus on, but remember, there's people you're trying to help. Right. And so if we're posting on LinkedIn, the question isn't, am I doing a good job per what my teacher told me to do? It's, hey, remember, you're trying to reach people. You're trying to reach people who are tired, who are burnt out, who are scrolling with like 1% of attention on LinkedIn, who are probably feeling a little compare and despair as they see everybody else's updates, right? Like whatever state of mind they're in, how do you catch their attention? How do you help them in this moment? What's the right thing to say to them? How do I solve the customer's problem, right? So I just wanted to give you that as an alternate example of how this can show up as you're building a business. Sometimes the am I good enough problem shows up as, how do I make this big and have the markers of success and basically prove to myself that I can be successful? And then sometimes the am I good enough problem can show up as like, how do I prove to my mentors or my advisors that I'm doing a good job and I'm getting an A, right, on their advice. So that's one example with building a business. I'll also give you an example with your boss. Right? Solving the am I good enough problem with your boss sounds like you asking, am I making a good impression on them? How are they thinking of me? What's my standing with them? Did I lose standing because I like flubbed a question or I was a little unprepared for something or I did do a good job with? So now they're like kind of mad at me. And so now I have to like get back up in their standing. Am I dazzling them? Do they think I'm stupid? How do I show them that I'm not stupid? Do they think I'm just like sitting around doing nothing? How do I show them that I'm doing a lot of work, that I'm making progress? How do I show them that I'm on top of things? All of those questions are versions of solving the am I good enough problem. Versus if you were focused on solving their problems, this is what this would sound like. You would ask, what are they focused on? What problems are they trying to solve? What is keeping them up at night? What are their goals, their metrics, their KPIs? What are they trying to get done? Are they trying to grow revenue? Did you guys lose a big customer? You guys need to replace the customer? Do you guys need to show growth? Are you guys like having growing pains because you're growing fast? And so your boss is really focused on building a new team operating model that actually works. Are you in a like corporate dogfight for resources and your boss is really focused on securing enough resources for the team and making sure that the team's work is visible? I don't know what it is. Right? But like asking yourself that question of what is the boss focused on? What problem are they trying to solve? And then put your brain on, how do I help them solve that problem? right? How do I help them get more resources for the team and for the team's work to be more visible? How do I help them land the customer that's gonna like ensure that the company continues to survive? How do I help them navigate the growing pains and like build a new team operating model? All of those are versions of you solving your boss's problem instead of solving your own personal am I good enough problem. I'll give you another example, right? Now, let's say you're thinking about a team member or a colleague, right? Someone who's parallel to you that you have to work with, and you have this feeling that this team member is transactional. They're not interacting with you the way that you want. They're just like giving you a little request and like asking you to do stuff for them without bringing you in, without giving you context, without really valuing your expertise. And you feel like they're not really respecting me. They're not really valuing my work. They're being transactional and they're like keeping me out. They're like keeping me out of the context, right? And they're keeping me out of the room, right? Solving the am I good enough problem in this context sounds like, how do I make them respect me? How do I show them that I have value to add? How do I show them that I deserve better than that and they should treat me better than they're treating me? How do I show them that that I deserve more of their attention and more of their time, right? It doesn't sound bad, right? But that's actually still you solving the am I good enough problem. It's about you and you not feeling respected and you feeling like they're not valuing your time and you feeling bad about that and then wanting to prove and demonstrate to them that you're worthy, right? So you're still solving the am I good enough problem. Versus if you were solving their problem, this is what it would sound like. You would be like, that's interesting. Why are they acting that way? I'll just make up an example here. Let's say you're someone who's on like a data and analytics or like an insights team, and the other person is like on an operating team, right? And they're busy with operations and kind of making operational decisions. And they pinged you and were like, hey, can you pull this data for me? And just like, I need this number, right? And you're like, oh, this feels so like transactional. This feels so disrespectful. They're just like randomly making data requests for me. Like, don't they know the level I'm at? Like, that's not the way to interact with me, right? So if that was a situation, I'm just bringing it to life a little bit so that I can show you what it would mean, like what it would sound like to solve their problem instead of solving the am I good enough problem. So if you were solving their problem, right, that would be like, hey, if they do that, if they just ask me for a random data request with like no context and like not bringing me into the larger like whatever it is that they're actually doing, they're just like, hey, can you pull this number for me? That's actually worse for them, right? Like that is, they're not like, I'm not going to be able to give them the best information because I don't have the full context. It's possible that like the number they asked for is not even the number they need to do whatever they're actually trying to do. Like if I understood more, then I would actually be able to help them do what they're doing like more effectively. And so, hey, they are blocked in solving their problem as effectively as possible, right? And so why is that? What are they missing? What do they not know about me and what I can do or how I can work with them that's causing them to work with me less effectively and therefore actually not solve their own problem, right? And how can I help them do their own job better? How can I help them solve their own problems or achieve their own goals? Maybe they don't even realize what you have the capabilities to do, right? And so it's like, oh, it's an education problem. Maybe they're like, well, I know you guys could do that, but like, we got to move really fast. Like, we don't have time to be inefficient about this. And you're like, oh, you're thinking that it's going to be really inefficient to like work with me more effectively, but like, it's not. Like, let me help you, right? All of that is a version of you solving their problem, right? You're still influencing them. You're still changing the way you guys are interacting, but you're doing it by really anchoring on what's their problem and why are they blocked in solving it? And how do they not even realize that they're blocked? And I can help them realize the blocker and then work with me more effectively and achieve their goals more effectively. All of that is you thinking about how you can solve their problem instead of solving the am I good enough problem. Okay, I'm going to give you one more example. This one's actually with productivity and just like deciding what to do next. So it's not even like you versus another person. It's more you versus the voices in your head versus like the demands of the project. So I'll give you an example. So this is the second podcast episode that I'm recording today. I batch my, content production. So I usually record 1 or 2 episodes a week. And I often have the feeling I'm behind. I'm behind. I'm always behind. I'm making my podcast. I'm always in a rush. I'm lazy. I need to be more on top of this, right? And like, oh, I'm always behind, right? So that's like the mean voice in my head that's just like, you're always behind on this. You're always like, you're always like slapdash and like throwing this together. And so today, serendipitously, I'm recording my second one of the day, and I have 2 more ideas that I've already started to outline. And I'm like, ooh, maybe I like spend a couple more hours and I like put 2 more in the bank today. Like that could be cool, right? And I could do that, right? I'm not saying that that's good or bad, but again, as I'm making the prioritization decision and as I'm deciding, do I spend the time recording 2 more podcast episodes or do I do one of the other million things on my list? Let me give you again an example of like solving the am I good enough problem versus solving the project's problem, right? So solving the am I good enough problem would sound like, I always feel like I'm behind on these. I always feel like I'm scrambling. I always feel like I'm lazy and like I feel like I'm not good enough in my podcast production workflow, right? So I always feel like I'm behind. And so the reason I want to record 2 more episodes today is to prove to myself that I'm not behind. It's to prove to myself that I'm on top of things. And by the way, I always have a little fear that I'm going to run out of ideas, right? So it's to prove to myself I have plenty of ideas and I'm not going to run out of ideas. All of those, right? If I made the decision to record more episodes for those reasons, that's me actually solving the am I good enough problem. Versus the other way to decide whether or not to like record more episodes today or do something else would be to say, well, what are all my priorities? I don't record podcast episodes. I have a bunch of stuff that I'm up to, right? So what are all my other priorities, right? And like what time do I have slotted to like work on them? And is this the best use of the next couple of hours? Should I bank 2 more podcast episodes, even though I have time, like, set aside to do that later, but I could do it, right? I could say, hey, I'm in a good flow. The ideas are fresh. Let's just like knock this out. And then like the time I've allocated later to do this, I'll spend that on something else, right? Versus I could also say, you know what? It's lower priority. Like there's other things that are higher priority. So it's great that I have the ideas. I've sketched it out. I've kind of like outlined as much as I can. I'll pick it up, whenever it's time to work on it, but I want to focus on the other higher priority items right now. It doesn't even really matter which one I do. I'm going to think after this, like which one of those 2 I'm going to do. But I want you to notice the way I'm problem solving that, right? I'm not solving the am I good enough problem. I'm not trying to prove to myself I'm not behind like I always am. I'm on top of things finally, and I have enough ideas and I'm going to be okay, right? I'm not trying to prove I'm good enough. Instead, I'm just like mechanically looking at what are all my priorities, what needs to get done when, and like what is the best use of this time, right? And so that's the difference between solving the am I good enough problem when I'm deciding what to do next versus solving the project's problem, right? Or just my own priorities and just like mechanically what needs to get done, right? So this is what I mean when I say stop trying to do a good job. I wanted to give you a bunch of examples to really bring this to life, but it really is about stop solving the am I good enough problem and stop proving and striving to show that I am good enough. Stop solving that problem and instead solve the customer's problem, the boss's problem, the team's problem, the project's problem, solve somebody else's problem. That's the core of my advice here. And what I find happens when you do this, right? When you stop solving the am I good enough problem and you focus on solving other people's problems and solving the project's problems, it's a little bit like the Henry David Thoreau quote on happiness. So he wrote, happiness is like a butterfly. The more you chase it, the more it will evade you. But if you notice the other things around you, it will gently come and sit on your shoulder. And I feel like the same thing is true of success. The more that you focus on proving that you're good enough, achieving success, making it, arriving, like getting there, right? The more you focus on yourself, the more you chase it in that direct way, the more it will evade you and the more that you will burn out. You'll feel like you're on a hamster wheel and you are running and running and running, but the destination you're trying to get to never seems to get there because you're like, well, I got promoted, but now I have to do a good job here. My boss is happy with me now, but like maybe they won't be happy with me at the next interaction. Okay, I got ahead with my podcast episodes this week, but I don't know what's going to happen next week. Okay, I managed to make the colleague, respect me this time, but who knows what's going to happen next time, right? The more that you chase it in that direct way, the more it feels like an endless hamster wheel and you never get there. Versus the more that you just focus on other people's problems and you just don't think about yourself at all. Don't worry about, am I good enough? Am I succeeding? Do I have it within me? What's my status in the room? Are people impressed with me, right? The less you worry about that and the more you just focus on what is the actual problem here? Does customer have a problem? Does my boss have a problem? Does the team have a problem? Does the project have a problem? Like an execution problem? What's somebody else's problem that I can focus on? The more you focus on that, the more that your own personal success comes and lands on your shoulder like that butterfly, right? It's one of those kind of ironic things. It's a version of the like, you find love when you're not looking for it, right? Like kind of thing. It's like you find success when you get yourself really busy solving other people's problems and not worrying about whether you've proven yourself, whether you're going to succeed and whether you're good enough. So the mindset contemplation I want you to try out this week is just a little background question. I want you to like kind of hold in your head and ask yourself throughout the day. I want you to ask yourself, if I wasn't trying to prove that I'm good enough, what would I do? If I wasn't trying to prove that I'm good enough, how would I approach this task that it's in front of me? If I wasn't trying to prove that I was good enough, why would I do this? What would I even be doing? What would be my motivation, right? Just keep asking yourself that question. Put that lens on everything you're doing. If I wasn't trying to prove that I'm good enough, what would I do? how would I do this? Why would I do this? What the heck would even be happening in my life if I wasn't trying to prove that I'm good enough? And you might have this experience as you ask yourself this question this week. You might have this feeling of like the scales are falling from my eyes. You might have this feeling of like, oh my gosh, I have been zoomed in on the teeniest, tiniest little sandbox for years and years and years. I've been super focused and super zoomed in on this question of, am I good enough? And by asking myself this question, if I wasn't trying to prove that I'm good enough, what the heck would I be doing? I feel like I'm looking up from the world's tiniest little sandbox where my eyes have been focused for so long. And I'm like looking up, blinking in the sunlight, being like, oh my God, there is a whole world out there. There's a whole world of possibilities and horizons and things I would be doing. I didn't even realize I was so laser focused on this teeny tiny little sandbox until I asked myself, what would I be doing if I wasn't trying to prove I was good enough? And I was like, holy crap, it's a completely different world out there. Right? And so I really want you to exercise this mindset contemplation this week and really see what comes up for you. There's probably stuff even coming up for you right now as I ask you this question. And as you're looking around at your life and your to-do list and your calendar and your meetings and all the things that you're up to, you're probably like, holy crap. Things would actually be really, really different if I wasn't trying to prove that I was good enough. I might be doing completely different things. And so if this question sparks a lot of questions for you, right? Sparks a lot of thoughts for you. And if you feel like, oh my God, I'm looking up from the world's tiniest sandbox and I'm like just starting to see a completely different world. I'm like blinking in the sunlight, but like the outlines of a completely different world are starting to emerge from me and I don't even know what to do with that. Here's what I want you to do. If you have that feeling, book a call with me. Go to the link in the episode description and book that free career audit with me right now. Do it as quickly as you can. Do it while you're having that feeling. Because what I don't want you to do is retreat back into the box. I don't want you to like slowly look up, blinking in the sunlight, see the big world around you, not know what to do with that information, and then zoom back into the sandbox, right? Zoom back and be like, that's scary. That's a can of worms. Let me go back to doing what I was doing that feels safe and familiar. Let me just go back to like proving I was good enough. Don't do that. We opened the box. You started to get a view of the big world and the big life that is possible for you if you weren't constantly trying to prove that you're good enough. Don't retreat backward, right? Book that call and come talk to me. We're going to do this really slow, right? We're going to blink in the sunlight together. We're going to slowly open this box. We're going to consider, what could it mean? What could your life look like? What could your career look like? What could this whole thing be? What could this whole enterprise of being a human even be if you weren't trying to prove that you were good enough all the time? We'll explore it together step by step, and we will actually make it come to life. I know it can feel really scary to kind of consider for the very first time, but trust me, I do this all day long with lots of people. And what you're going to see is what all of my clients see, which is that little butterfly of external success is going to land on your shoulder and it's going to stay there even more sustainably and thoroughly than ever before in your life. And you're also going to feel better than you ever have. And you are just going to see a whole new vision and possibilities for yourself. Once you step out of like focusing on that tiny sandbox of proving you're good enough, and you open your eyes and you're like, holy crap, there's a way bigger world out there than just like proving that I'm successful, proving that I'm good enough, like filling the void of my own self-esteem. If I stop doing that, there's actually like a million other things I could be doing. Like if I'd stop trying to solve that problem of like, am I good enough? There's actually way more interesting problems that I could be focused on and solving and live a way more interesting and fulfilling life if I was doing that. If you have the little like inklings of that feeling, book your call with me. Book your call with me. We'll pull this out slowly and we will bring it to life, and we'll build that life that's not focused on proving that you're good enough, but is actually focused on doing whatever the heck you would be doing if you weren't trying to solve that problem all the time. All right, that is my advice for you. This is what I mean when I say to build a burnout-free career, to build a career that is both externally successful and internally fulfilling, to build a career that meets the highest standards of excellence that you love to chase and meets your biggest ambitions, but also doesn't burn you out on the inside, but instead leaves you feeling deeply satisfied and connected and full of purpose. The key to doing all of that, stop trying to do a good job. AKA, stop trying to solve the problem of, am I good enough? And instead get busy focused on other people's problems. And if asking that question, if doing this mindset contemplation is making you realize, holy crap, I might live my life and my career very, very differently if I was actually guided by that North Star, book that call with me, go to the link in the episode description, and let's actually start building that life. I cannot wait to talk to you, and I'll talk to you next week. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Aligned Ambition podcast. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and share this podcast with anyone you know that you think could use it. If you'd like to explore working together in a one-on-one coaching engagement with me, book a free consult call at poojavcoaching.com/contact. You can grab that link in the episode description. And if you have any questions, thoughts, or topics you want me to cover in this podcast, shoot me an email at pooja@poojavcoaching.com. You can grab that in the episode description too. Talk to you soon.